Graves was not as odd-looking as Stoker. Granted, his shoulders were uneven by about 3 feet, but still. Of course, he was also a broken record. Focused solely on race and nothing else. He'd just say the Egyptians were black. I'd counter him by reminding him what we were here to debate, while also pointing out the number of times the rulers of Egypt were anything but the native populace, as well as pointing out that Ramses' family is now believed to have been descended from immigrants. You could just say the Egyptians were black. I'd say the Ptolemaic dynasty was Greek. He'd say they were black, even though history shows us otherwise. Honestly, he wasn't much of an improvement. No, he wasn't much of an improvement at all. I just stood there, staring at him. Thoughts of Spartacus going through my head. Graves was just such a broken record that, well, let's just say I had to humor him and say that the obvious pharaohs were black, and by that I mean the Nubian dynasty, since, well, with Egypt having been a melting pot since time immemorial, with people of all skin and hair colors calling it home. The only ones we're really sure about are the Nubian dynasty. Yeah, so I'd say that Paya had been black, and Graves would ask, who is Paya? I'd say Shebitku had been black, and Graves would ask, who was Shebitku? I'd say Shabaka had been black, and he'd ask, who was Shabaka? I'd say Taharka had been black, and of course, Graves would ask, who was Taharka? I would say Tantamani had been black, and of course, Graves would ask, who was Tantamani? And then it started to occur to me. Graves might have followed the belief that the Egyptians were black all the way from founding to Cleopatra, but he had no idea who the pharaohs of the 25th dynasty even were. He had no idea who the pharaohs we do know to be black actually were. I sighed and said, Okay. Do you know who Akhenaten is? And Graves answered, yes. I asked, do you know who Tutankhamun is? He said, yes. I asked, do you know who Ramses II is? He said, yes. I asked, do you know who Cleopatra is? And he said, yes. Thus I did turn to asking him, do you know who Hezekiah is? He said no. I asked if he knew who Elephant was. He said no. I asked if he knew who Erihor was. And of course he said no. I asked if he knew who Narmer was. He said no. I asked if he knew who Self-Peripsen is. He said no. I asked if he knew who Joser was, and of course he said no. I asked if he knew who Sneferu was. He said no. I asked if he knew who Uzurkaf had been, and of course he said no. I asked if he knew who Teti was, and of course he said no. I nearly asked him if he knew who Menkaure was, but I figured out what the answer would have been. Graves didn't know who any pharaoh was, besides the four obvious.